All right. Here we go, guys and gals. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, drivers.
Welcome back to the Loose Wheel Show, Season 3, Episode 3. My name is Andrew Hazlett. That is Ethan Ignatowski. How are you doing, ladies and gentlemen?
They can't respond to you, I fear. I can respond, though. I've been busy, but I've been good. How about yourself?
I've been doing good.
Great. All right. I think we're just going to hop into it here. As promised, last week, I was going to wait for the F1 shakedown at Barcelona to end before talking about it, but it has ended. And now, as promised, I'm going to talk about it. The Athletic put out a really good recap article, so go read that. But and I got a lot of this information from that, so definitely go read that. But anyway, getting into the news, Andrew, did you pay any attention at all to the shakedown?
No, I did not.
Do you know who the favorites are after the shakedown?
Actually, I did see Lewis Hamilton was fastest.
He was fastest, but he's not. I'm not a betting man, and you're not a betting man. But the betting people have decided someone else.
Is it the Mercedes?
Mercedes and George Russell are currently the favorites for the drivers and constructors championships.
Which, if I may interject, you can just shoot me down if I'm wrong here. Wasn't George Russell and Mercedes the favorites heading into this test anyway?
They probably were, but this test kind of reaffirmed that position. People around the paddock, they spoke to the Athletic and kind of said, yeah, like those two are the favorites for those respective championships. And the reason they're not just saying that, it's based off what they saw during testing, right? George and Kimi combined for 500 laps over their 3 days during the shakedown. They had great reliability, which is really what this shakedown is mostly for. And obviously, we don't see nearly as many reliability problems in modern F1 as we used to. But reliability is still a major thing. And in a tight title fight, one reliability-based DNF can make or break your chances. So having a reliable car is absolutely huge. So like I said, they had great reliability. There was only one minor issue over the course of those 500 laps, which is pretty impressive for the first real running on track. They had a strong engine, as we all expected. They as we know and as we've talked about, they found kind of a loophole in the regulations, but it's completely legal, and all the Mercedes customer teams are going to benefit from that. So that's huge for all of their teams, that the engine is not only, probably the fastest, but it's extremely reliable as well. Mercedes just had the perfect shakedown, though. I mean, they finished their running. They finished their program a day early. Like, that is very, very impressive. And that's not something you go out and tell the media unless you're extremely confident in your car.
Or lying.
They gain nothing from lying about that. The only thing that could happen is that they actually are slow and they look dumb. But Mercedes, they had a great test. Going down the list of teams, I'm not going to hit on all teams. Like, Haas and Alpine, they had good shakedowns, but there was nothing really interesting about them. They were just kind of there and did well. McLaren, on the other hand, they ran only 288 laps. So just over half of what Mercedes did. Respectable, but like I said, that's pretty far off of Mercedes. They had only one real issue, which was a fuel system problem when Oscar was driving the car. The chief designer of the car, Rob Marshall, he said that the car will not change dramatically until Melbourne. So we're going to see here, Andrew, that some of the teams have taken different philosophies toward testing. McLaren isn't going to be putting major upgrades on the car in Bahrain or changing anything major. So this car that was at the shakedown is going to be the car that's at the official test in Bahrain. Lando Norris was quoted. He called the new cars more complicated and just different, but he also noted that challenge was, quote, a good thing, which I agree. I think it's good that these cars are different and trickier to drive. Obviously, these are some of the best drivers in the world, and they'll get used to it. But I agree that's a good thing and adds a layer of interest and excitement. Like I said, other teams went about testing in a different way. Ferrari was one of those teams. They almost the complete opposite of McLaren in terms of their thought process. They brought a relatively base spec car to Spain. They just wanted to make sure everything was running right before focusing on performance in Bahrain. They put in 436 laps, and Lewis Hamilton, like you said, Andrew, he put in the fastest lap of the test on Friday in the closing moments of the final day. Lewis has talked about how the week was enjoyable, which, if you remember last year, there was hardly a week that Lewis Hamilton felt was enjoyable. And he said that the team's off to a better start than last year, which I'm sure he is very, very happy about, and part of why he felt the week to be so enjoyable. Then we get on to Red Bull, and Andrew, this is one of those teams that's doing those, are they telling the truth things, in my opinion. Because team principal Laurent Mekies, he said that it is, quote, naive to think that Red Bull will be on the same level out of the gates as Mercedes or Ferrari. That being said, and part of the reason why I disagree is because the Barcelona test was really, really good for Red Bull. They obviously have their new power unit, which is in collaboration with Ford. And the power unit as a whole completed 622 laps between the main Red Bull team and Racing Bulls. It was almost a 50-50 split. Racing Bulls actually ran like 8 or something more laps than Red Bull itself. Isaac Hadjar, he unfortunately suffered one of the most publicized incidents of the shakedown when he crashed the car.
Oh no, I crashed the car.
Yeah, when he crashed the car, he said I broke the car. But yes, he crashed the car on day 2 of testing, which obviously costs time and resources, and time and resources are something that you don't want to have to waste during a 3-day shakedown. But still, relatively successful for Red Bull. Getting into the new teams, Andrew. Audi, they drove 243 laps with their new engine and gearbox. Wasn't perfect. There were plenty of issues. But in my opinion, Audi, they probably know that 2026 is not a year where they're going to be fighting for a title, right? Like, as a new team with a new powertrain. That's just probably not going to happen. So what do you have to focus on in that case? Just learning. And I think that 243 laps, obviously it's not a lot, but you're still going to be learning. The team said that they'll be hoping that the performance shows itself in Bahrain. But at least they got laps in here. Cadillac, they only had 164 laps of running. Team principal Graham Loudon said that the shakedown was, very much focused on reliability, and Bahrain will be about actually seeing how fast the car can go. So again, more similar to what Ferrari's strategy was, different than McLaren's. If you want a less optimistic view on the team, Valtteri Bottas said that they have a long way to go, which is to be expected because at least the Audi team had, the Audi team was Sauber and it just became Audi. And yes, there's all these new components to that. But Cadillac is from the ground up a completely new venture. So I don't think that's unexpected in any way. Something that was unexpected to me, at least at the start of testing, was when it was announced that Williams, or the shakedown I should say, it was that Williams would miss the entire shakedown. And the reason for that is because running during the shakedown would have compromised upgrade and parts plans for Bahrain, according to team principal James Vowles. So, Andrew, remember last week when I was saying, like, oh, this could be a big thing, this could be not a big thing? I'm leaning on the side of this being a bigger deal than not. I don't know what you take away from that.
I also saw that Williams completed a shakedown in Britain, I think.
They did run laps, I believe, and did like computer simulated stuff, but that's not different than what any other team did. Like Ferrari, they ran laps before the shakedown. Like a lot of other teams did that. They still missed out here on very valuable information. I don't think it's a death sentence, but I do think that that is probably less favorable on them now than it was than I thought a week ago. Not just simply not running the car leaves the team knowing less, and knowing less in a sport that's all about information and data is unfortunate, to say the least. I think that the most interesting story to come out of the shakedown, though, Andrew, was about Aston Martin. Adrian Newey, who, if you forgot, is now the team principal, essentially said that the car is 4 months behind on development. 4 months, Andrew.
A lot can happen in 4 months. Oh, a semester here at ASU happens in 4 months' time.
Yeah. In the fast-moving world of F1, that is even bigger of a deal. And essentially the reason for that is because of wind tunnel delays and the overall nature of the team hierarchy changing. Those two things essentially led to being 4 months behind. Are they actually 4 months behind? Who knows? But this is what Adrian Newey is saying, so this is what we have to go off of. But I think even more interesting than that, Andrew, is that the team had the most extreme, or at least the most unique design of any team on the grid, especially at the rear of the car. The rear suspension and side pod designs were very unique, completely different to what other teams were running. I don't know, Andrew, does that give you confidence that they found something that no other team did, or do you think it's the opposite direction?
I have as much confidence in Williams as...
I'm talking about Aston Martin.
Or Aston Martin. I don't know how time works. I don't... regardless, I don't have as much confidence in Aston Martin as I would have a cat to bark, if you know what I mean. There is no confidence there. Cats don't bark.
Even with Adrian Newey at the helm?
Lance Stroll is still one of their drivers.
I'm not talking about Lance Stroll. I'm talking about the car. Fernando Alonso is also still one of their drivers.
I don't... the car is going to have to be... Honestly, with that driver pairing, I know Fernando Alonso's really good still, but I still think that driver pairing as a whole, the car is going to have to elevate the drivers rather than the drivers elevating the car. So I have no confidence in that.
Yeah, I think depending on the specifics of the car, it could be something where, if Fernando Alonso just meshes well with it, he could elevate the car. But yeah, I don't disagree. I think last year was really a sign that unfortunately the beginning of the end could be here. Regarding Fernando Alonso's career, which obviously that's unfortunate, right? But Father Time is undefeated even for Fernando Alonso. But that's neither here nor there. Going back to talking about Lance Stroll, when the Austin finally got on track, because not only, Andrew, are they supposedly 4 months behind on testing, they only were able to do 2 days of running since they arrived late, whereas every other team, sans Williams, of course, completed 3 days. And when Lance Stroll finally got on track on that second-to-last day, he only did 5 laps before he had to stop due to what's being described as a precautionary measure. So I don't know why that was, but remember, this is also a new Honda power unit. We know
GP2 engine.
Yeah, we know Fernando's history
GP2.
with Honda power units. And in total, the team was only able to run 65 or so, I don't remember the exact number, but 65 or so laps over the final 2 days of testing, which that's bad. Andrew, that's bad. That's not that much more than a race distance. Real unfortunate. So I want to believe in that Austin team, Austin, however you say it, but I don't right now. I just don't. So I think the biggest takeaway from this testing is the reliability of the teams. Like I said, that's what this shakedown was really all about. But also, we know from experience that, well, yes, testing and shakedowns and all that stuff don't necessarily matter. I think we've also seen in recent years that they can be more representative than we might have used to give credit to them. So, yeah, I think Mercedes could be super strong this year. Yeah, I think Ferrari might be really quick this year as well. Those two things could be very well true. I think a team like McLaren or Red Bull is shrouded in a little bit more uncertainty at this point, but we have another test to kind of see how else we can figure things out, and I'm sure before the F1 season officially starts, we'll give our, predictions for how things go. But yeah, right now, sure, I think that George Russell winning the Drivers' Championship and Mercedes winning the Constructors is a very likely possibility.
All right, so we already reviewed the F1 test. Now let's review the Clash. Or as I might rename it, the Crash. Because
I don't know if you did this, but you probably made that joke last year too.
I might have done it in the past, but I had good reason to this time.
Well, last year was also, was it not?
I don't remember. I
do.
Congratulations.
You're welcome. Should be saying thank you.
Ethan, we had a snow delay due to snowfall, the big storm hitting the south. Delay the race to
hitting like half the country.
Well, the north is used to the level of snow the south is.
Not that level.
I don't know. I don't know weather. I know wheel.
You didn't try out to be a meteorologist person for the bureau?
No, I it's sunny. That would be my weather forecast every day, because every day would be true because we live in Arizona and it's a desert. There's a song about going through a desert.
On a horse with no name?
Yes. Felt good to be out of the rain, they say. Anyway.
So they say.
Regardless, there was a snow delay for 3 whole days, getting the track ready, everything. The first 100 laps, Ethan, were a dry race. And as of what we saw at the end of last year, the 2 dominant teams, Hendrick and Gibbs, led the dry race. Start off in the majority of the segment was Kyle Larson and William Byron, followed up by Chase Briscoe and Ty Gibbs leading. And then we had at the halftime break, because all NASCAR races have to have breaks for some reason, we had a rain delay. And Ethan,
yes,
the cars have wet weather tires. I don't know why they didn't go racing earlier. I kind of had stuff to do during this point in time, but to me they seemed ready to go earlier than when they did. To be honest, I don't know. But to pick off, we just had several spins, and it's really not worth mentioning any of them. Well, there's one worth mentioning at the end, but we'll go through, because they were just, it would be, someone would do something, or the race would restart, and then 1 to 2 laps in, it would feel like 90% of the runs, we'd have a spin. Like, it was just not very good racing. I think the first stint was decent in the rain, and then the last stint was decent too, but it was just a slog fest. What would happen, Ethan, is on these restarts, everyone would pick the top because that was the preferred lane. But however, on all these restarts, the driver on the bottom would just send it in on turn 1, driving the leader up the track and just taking the lead. Every time that's what happened, and every time the leader would pick the outside to a certain point. So it was just, that was all the passing for the lead pretty much. It was start off Chase Briscoe, then Carson Hocevar, then Van Gisbergen, then Ryan Preece, and then back to SVG. And then there was a restart where SVG took the bottom, and it worked. Almost like I saw 20 restarts in a row where the bottom was the car that came out with a lead. I don't know. But then Kyle Larson ran out of gas, and then eventually Chase Elliott did too. That's just how many cautions we had. There were only 2 to run out of gas, but it was just that atrocious. Priest retook the lead, and then Ethan, the race moved over to Fox Sports 2. Why, you might ask? Because the Masked Singer had to be on. I know it's an exhibition race, so it's not that big of a deal. This is one of the few races you do get on Fox. You should have an extended window to say, okay, do we really need a Masked Singer show? Which, it's
probably contractually obligated, definitely contractually obligated to be on that channel at that time. So, yes, that's what happens when your races get delayed and go along. I know you think that it's more important than anything else, and I don't disagree that the Clash, as uninteresting as it is probably way more interesting than the Masked Singer, but that's just life. It went on a different channel. Oh no. Regardless of how I feel, it's just a good microcosm of how the race was. That's fair.
That's why I put it in. And then battling for like second or third. Chase Briscoe spun SVG, which that was really the only time someone in the top 3 was spun. And then everyone got a free stop for gas because I don't know. I don't understand like why everyone gets a free stop. I know it's an exhibition, but like that's corny to me. I like you if you feel that there's been a lot of cautions, you can urge the teams to pit, but you shouldn't get it for free. I mean, like teams should have the option to stay out, and if you stay out, you should climb those spots. But there wasn't, so. And then at this point, there was a clash record for cautions. So this truly was the crash. I would give this race a 3 out of 10 because the racing in like the first 120 laps, Ethan, was pretty good. But the last 80 laps or so was just dreadful.
Yeah. I mean, is the clash even necessary? Like,
because TV pays money for the race, but from my point of view, no, I don't think we need it. I don't think we need the All-Star race.
Why not just add another regular season race?
I don't know. That's beyond me to figure out. I don't know why.
It seems unnecessary. It's a gimmick, and look, we've talked about gimmicks in motorsports, and is what it is. But like, I don't think I could be less interested in a race put on by one of the 3 major series that we talk about on this show.
Like the only real purpose like an all-star race to me or an exhibition race to me would serve is that you can't get all your cars onto a certain track without the race working, and so you can go to these other places where you can't go, and like the Coliseum in LA was one, and then Bowman Gray Stadium is another. I see that's kind of a point just to get out to a different track where you couldn't normally, but other than that, I don't see a point in one. If you want to test certain things like different things, sure, but again, you only really need one race for that. You definitely don't need 2.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
No, it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here, but like, why not go do something like actually interesting, like a dirt race as an exhibition, or like some road course that you wouldn't normally go to for an exhibition, or even like that San Diego road street track. That seems more like an exhibition race than, like, it should be more of an exhibition race than an actual points paying regular season race. Like something interesting but different like that, rather than, okay, like I guess Bowman Gray's like been there, done that. Like, I don't know. Keep as someone who knows a lot about innovation, like try to innovate some new ideas here instead of doing the same nothing burger thing over and over again, because even with Bowman Gray as it's this and that and the other thing, like it's the same concept as the LA Coliseum races.
Yeah, I agree. Moving into the news, Ethan, Denny Hamlin is racing with a re-aggravated shoulder injury in 2026. He's gotten I believe this is the one he surgery on recently within the past few years. So I don't know if that's going to be a performance dip. There's a lot of indications where it might be a performance dip for Hamlin. A lot of personal side instead of last year. I thought there might be a personal dip in or a dip in performance due to a crew chief change. Obviously, that didn't happen, so we'll see. Just with Denny Hamlin, hopefully not. And then the other piece of NASCAR news, Ethan. AM Racing says Sigma never finalized acquisition of the team, and AM Racing is moving forward in 2026. So this just O'Reilly team is just getting messier and messier with everything. Like, who knows if they're going to be full-time? Who knows if Sigma's going to be racing? Hettinger Racing apparently is having some issues. There's a real chance, Ethan, that Ford doesn't have a team in the O'Reilly race at Daytona this year.
That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you, as one of the, I guess now technically 4 manufacturers in the NASCAR hierarchy, like, whatever. That's embarrassing. How can Ford not have a team rock up to Daytona? Like,
yeah, and that's what happens when all your teams leave you, and the 2 teams you have, one of them's a brand new team with possible growing pains, and the other team is whatever this is. There's a word that I would describe with, but it's obviously I can't use it. If you know what I mean, Ethan.
I have idea.
So, yeah, it's this something we've kind of talked about in the off season. There's nothing really more to say. I just don't really quite understand what's going on. So, here's something that we rumored last time out, Ethan, and we actually do have concrete news now that's official. IndyCar announces Freedom 250 Grand Prix at Washington, D.C. as 18th race. Like I said last week, there is going to be more money being paid out. There might be disagreements on whether or not that is enough money. It'll be August 21st through 23rd. So, Ethan, I don't have working Wi-Fi right now, but if I did, I'd look up the IndyCar. Now I do. And so I will look up the IndyCar schedule to kind of tell you where that slides in, what dates and that is in between. Going to be right in between, right after Canada and right before the Milwaukee doubleheader. So in Ethan, that is going to be in 5 weekends. The IndyCar is going to have its final 6 races. That's going to be a stretch. The good news for teams is there's, I believe, 2 off weeks before that, consecutive off weeks before that stretch. So the month of July is light, only 2 races, but August is going to have 5, and then the finale in September. So that's going to be a grind at that point. Yeah. Teams are going to be worn out. And this will be a one-time race, Ethan, which in terms of the sustainability and economic impact, it's a terrible decision to have a one-time race, regardless if it's in Washington, D.C., if it's at Alaska, if it's in Hawaii, if it's in your brother's garage.
What?
That doesn't really matter where it is. It's just gonna not be. It's
that would be
not
pretty
an
crazy
economic.
if it ended up in my brother's garage, seeing as how I don't have a brother.
That's kind of my point of when I said your brother's garage. So, yes, it is cool to be racing on the streets of Washington, D.C. Again, we don't know the layout yet, which is mildly concerning. This race had been in the works for some time, but I'm extremely skeptical about the logistics of this race, how it's going to turn out, especially since oh yeah, this is gonna be a one-time thing. So
I mean, is it too far to say that this is just like propaganda?
I wouldn't put. It could be basically propaganda.
I don't want to get into that whole conversation, but like,
I don't know what I don't know enough about the political scene to say whether it is or it isn't. I do know that we talked about on the show in the past that the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement has ran ads using Indy cars,
like
race cars, likeness, I guess is the right word. And then IndyCar didn't, I don't think, publicly say anything. I think some drivers did, which from a business perspective, at least in my opinion, it is in the best nature to not align yourself with anything political, especially something as controversial as ICE. Whether if you think ICE is good or bad, I wouldn't want, as a brand, I don't want to align myself with an organization that is that controversial.
I feel like if you're a brand, you need to say, yo, you can't use my stuff.
Yeah.
That's just me. And I think by them not saying anything, they are
saying something.
They are saying something, yeah.
Which, is that good or bad for the sport? I don't know, but it's quite enough to not drum up anything
probably
huge.
Not good on a global scale. But I think in the States it won't make a difference.
Mm-hmm. And our final piece of IndyCar news: Ethan Cindric returns to Penske as McLaughlin's race strategist. Which obviously Tim Cindric was the president of Team Penske for IndyCar. He got fired due to the attenuator scandal at Indianapolis, along with several others, and now has been rehired as only a strategist, not in any of the previous roles, which he might be added to some at some point. But to me,
that's a fairly reasonable assumption.
To me, like, it's very interesting to fire someone for and other people for something so controversial, only to hire said person back 7 months later or 8 months later. He's a pretty good strategist. That's why he was hired. But Ethan, it's kind of a gray area with the team owner being the series owner and everything within that. So I don't know. I'm confused, to be honest, by that hire.
I'm not, honestly. I think the firing was a damage control thing, and it's been long enough now that who cares? And so they're going to bring back someone that was integral to their team and a great racing mind. That doesn't really surprise me at all, quite honestly. It surprises me that he's only a race strategist, honestly. But aside from that, I'm not surprised. Yeah, moving into F1 news, we have no news, kind of. There's nothing really worth going over. There is something that is worth going over. The BBC released an article that featured multiple figures in the sports world who had and kept contact with Jeffrey Epstein following his first sexual assault conviction. Let me try and find the article real quick. But one of those people was Jean Todt, who obviously, since we're talking about him and we're in the F1 section of the show, you already know he's a figure in F1, but he is a former Ferrari team principal, former president of the FIA. So yeah, that's not good at all. Yeah, you can go read the BBC article if you want to, but yeah, just not good. Besides that, though, there's really nothing. Williams released their car, because like obviously we saw everything else at the not everything else. There were some teams that ran special shakedown liveries, but we did get to see Williams. I quite like it. What do you think, Andrew?
I seem to like it. I saw it. Yeah,
I think it's cool. It still has the Duracell battery at the top of the air intake, which I think is just super clever. It's mostly the same. It has some light blue, which I think is a nice contrast to the darker blue and the white. Overall, one of my favorite liveries that I've seen so far. It'll be interesting to see what it looks like on track. And then the last bit of Formula One news that I can stretch in here is that the F1 movie won 2 Critic Choice Awards, one for Best Editing and one for Best Sound. I have talked at length on this program about how I am not a fan of that movie, but absolutely deserves to win those 2 awards, because my issues with the movie are from a storyline perspective and nothing really more than that. It was an amazing sounding movie. The audio effects and the soundtrack were great. The editing was also amazing, so it makes perfect sense to me that it won those awards. And well, it's not the Oscars quite yet. The movie was nominated for 4 Academy Awards. One being Best Picture, which it's just not going to win. That's not the type of movie that wins Best Picture, but it wasn't nominated for that. And then it was nominated for Best Visual Effects, Best Sound, and Best Film Editing, which I think it probably does deserve to win all 3 of those. Will it? I don't know, but it had great visual effects. It sounded amazing, and it was really well. It seemed to be really well edited. So, what can I say? The movie did well in those aspects. The story was just beyond atrocious, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna kind of pivot back to NASCAR news because I forgot to mention this, but in the Epstein files, Ethan, Brian Vickers was mentioned 112 times, including sending emails to Epstein that were explicit, which is not good. No. And Vickers was married to Sarah Kellington, also known as Sarah Kensington, who was one of the people close to Epstein, if you want to read further. But yeah, that's a yikes. And there was some stuff I saw that was mildly interesting, but yeah, that's kind of really it, which is not that's not good, Ethan. Which Jimmy Spencer once said, Brian Vickers needs to be put in a straitjacket.
Wow.
That was after Brian Vickers caused 5 incidents at Martinsville. And Matt Kenseth was mad at him. Matt Kenseth is one of the most level-headed guys or especially at that time, was one of the most level-headed guys in the garage. He kind of lost his cool in a few years later by doing something, which is another story for another day. Joey Logano did not deserve to be taken out at Martinsville, but Kenseth lost his cool at Brian Vickers because Brian Vickers was an absolute head case on the racetrack that day. But yeah, that's one of the all-time Jimmy Spencer rants, and that aged like wine with what's happened. I don't know if you have anything better, Ethan, but you want to talk some random lower series silly season news?
Sure, I guess.
Yeah.
Got 10 minutes.
Got 10 minutes to kill. Alpha Prime, they're keeping Brennan Poole as expected, but they're going to pair him with LeVar Scott going up from the ARCA series. I don't think Scott's going to do anything really super impressive. He wasn't super impressive in ARCA. Barrett Cope Racing is going to take over what Cope Family Racing was. They're going to have a rotation of drivers. Not going to get too far into that. Patrick Staropoli replaced Nick Sanchez at Big Machine Racing after Sanchez was told he was going to return, which I think is a bad move. Staropoli is kind of an unk and also not very good, where Sanchez was okay with promise and young, but Staropoli had the money for the doctor. Josh Williams is back with DGM Racing for the upteenth time. That's going to go probably as expected as the other upteen times there were. I think we talked about Corey Day going full-time for Hendrick. Jordan Anderson is fielding a third car full-time. Raja Karuth is going to be driving that car, Ethan, on a rotation scale. And it's going to be driving the other 23 races with Junior Motorsports to go full-time entry. Curious to see how he'll do, kind of splitting that ride. A bunch of Cup drivers are going to be in that car as well. Carson Quapple is going to be full-time for Junior Motorsports on two different cars, but that's something we already noted. Austin Green, the road course racer that I always like to talk about in the road courses for Xfinity Series, he's full-time with Peterson Racing. They had been in alliance with Jordan Anderson Racing, so that's curious to see how that's going to do. Josh Balicki's at S's Greenlight Racing. He's probably going to be solid at the road courses. Viking Motorsports, their lineup is going to be Parker Retzlaff and Anthony Alfredo. That could be interesting with how that goes. Brent Cruz is going to be pretty much full-time in the 19 car. There's going to be a handful of races where he can't do. Gio Ruggiero will be doing two of those, among others. And then there's a handful of guys who have announced things that aren't full-time. Really not very notable, to be honest. In trucks, Christian Eckes is going to be at McAnally Hilgeman Racing again. He had that one truck season or Xfinity Series season that was very mid. Chris Wright is going to be full-time for them as well, so that's going to be one guaranteed caution each race. Spire's downsizing to 2 rotation entries. They're not going to have a full-time entry anymore, which is mildly disappointing. Luke Baldwin's going to be in 12 races for Team Rayom. I think that could be a team that surprises people, Ethan, and in terms of how good that two truck could be. I'm high on Luke Baldwin. I'm just not very high on that truck. Nice Motorsports, Thor Sport Racing has announced Cole Butcher is going to be replacing Matt Crafton in their trucks, and everyone's doing a number change besides Ben Rhodes because that's Thor Sport does for some unknown reason. There's been a bunch of announcements for Nice Motorsports, but they really aren't anything because 18 billion drivers driving for them in their 4 trucks, all with Andres Perez being full-time for one of them. I do want to talk about Dario Franchitti driving the St. Petersburg race for Tricon, Ethan. Dario retired 12 years ago. He's in his 50s. What is Unc doing?
Side quest?
Yeah. It's interesting to me that he's doing that. That was one that I wasn't expecting out of the blue.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. It's kind of fun, though. I don't know.
It's fun, but that's surprising. I don't know if we talked about it. I'm going to dip down into ARCA here. Hailie Deegan's back in ARCA, which just hilarious to me.
It's just what's surprising to me is that people just keep hiring her. Like, have we as a
money talks, Ethan?
It does, but like, she's proven that she's not good.
Yeah, I would agree, but Spencer Boyd owns his own team and has a full-time seat. He's worse than her, and he's still getting rides. So like,
fair enough.
To be frank, if you have the money, you can do just about anything you want, Ethan.
Yeah. Especially in those lower series.
Yeah. To me, going from trucks with no results to an Xfinity Series seat, being booted mid-ride, mid-season, then going over to Indy next for some unknown reason, being terrible there, and then heading over to ARCA West. So, it's just diabolical. Thing is, Ethan, she could contend for the championship. Nitro's going to be fielding 2 cars. I'm not quite sure how good those cars are going to be. That's kind of a new team, but they could be the favorites with 2 drivers I've never heard of, in Mia Lavelle and Julian DaCosta. Eric Johnson Jr. is returning in the Jerry Pitts car, which is always half decent. Trevor Huddleston is defending champion and his family's High Point team, which that car is going to be decent. Robbie Keneally could put up a fight, I could see. And then Hailie Deegan, Mason Massey, and the Bill McAnally cars are going to should be good. So I don't really know what it's going to look like in that series. So yeah. Oh, let's review the pick points, because I forgot to do that because I just not used to that. Can I see the results anywhere? If you want to,
you got a point because Joey Logano finished ahead of my pick, Kyle Larson, and whoever the guest is who picked Chase Elliott. There you go.
It was Noah Reed. So
Noah Reed. Shout out.
For the first time since season, what was that? Season 2? No, season 2. I lead.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
In nearly 2 years, Ethan. So I'm gotta start out strong. A 1-0 real needle mover. Again, no racing this week, so we can't really say, oh yeah, we're gonna have a preview, because there isn't any racing. Kind of a slow show this week, just kind of in the off season. We're gonna pick it up NASCAR Daytona 500 next week for that show, so we might have something special planned for that show. So, Ethan, do you have any kind of closing thoughts here?
I'm tired.
I feel that. For Ethan Ignatowski, my name is Andrew Hazlett. Thank you for listening to Season 4, Episode 3 of the Loose Wheel Show. We'll be back, same time, same place, next Wednesday, 8 o'clock. Be there or lose your wheels. Good night.
I don't think you can do that. I think that you don't have control over that. Like, that's not something you have control over. Sorry, Andrew.
Whatever.
To me, it looked like he actually lost the wheel.
The wheel for Ross Chastain is still and perfect.
Wheel on the track.
Did you leave the wheel loose?
You picked the fine time to leave me loose, wheel.